Hello, children. It says Grandpa Joe again. And this video, we're going to talk about the sportier side of Grandpa. So, when I was probably in fourth grade, okay, we went to a private school, went to a private Christian school, because our dad, didn't want us involved in public school. I'm assuming because he didn't want us to hear all this heretical speak of, evolution and whatever. I guess he didn't think we would be able to handle it, or he didn't want us to be around. My guess is he didn't want us to be around kids who were cursing all the time, and that we would pick up on that and we would, start talking like that, or, you know, um, kids smoking and all this stuff, right? So he wanted to keep us away from that, and so wanted us to be good little boys and girls that he could control. And so he sent us to a private school. And in fourth grade, I started playing soccer. Well, and I played soccer all the way up till the eighth grade. So, 5 years. So fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth, I played soccer for the local Christian school. Now, we didn't, it was a small school, so, we played other, private schools mostly, but we played some public schools too, and, we did pretty good. I was mostly a halfback. That was my original position, was right halfback. And basically, that was a position which, went all over, followed the ball wherever the ball went. So we were defensive and offensive, right? And he put me in that position because I wasn't lazy. I would, work, right? So I wouldn't get tired. I wouldn't give up. And I would follow the ball wherever it went. So did pretty good. Then later on, sometimes I would play like a forward position, center forward. So I had a lot of good times, but that was the only sport that I ever played. Um, at one point, my ankle got broken by the coach. And so later on, when I asked to play sports, I was told no. You remember you got hurt, and that costs a lot of money going to the hospital and stuff, and uh, don't like the idea of you getting injured or whatever, right? So I wasn't allowed to play any sports after that, and it happened to coincide that we in ninth grade was my last year in that private school before we moved to North Carolina and then Georgia, right? So we were in public schools, and I was not allowed to go in for any of the sports in either place, right? So not exactly great, but I was really good in sports. I was good at good at basketball, good at soccer. We never played football, but I could throw pretty good. People said I could anyway. And never played baseball, though. I was, had a baseball glove, and I would, play catch, and I would hit the ball myself. But never played on a team. Played ping pong a lot. I was excellent at ping pong. I was really, really good. Now, in our private school, they had a ping pong table, but I was like in, fifth grade when they got the ping pong table, and so it was the older boys took the table all the time, and I would never got to play. You couldn't get a chance, because they wouldn't let you play, and so I built my own ping pong table out of a picnic table that we had, and So this was like a long table we used for picnics or Thanksgiving and stuff like that, for use outside. And so I painted it up green and we put the white lines in it and everything, and bought myself a net. And it was plywood, right? So it wasn't super like bouncy like a regular ping pong table is. And it was also thinner and shorter than a regular ping pong table. And I practiced by myself over and over again all the time. Where I was out there practicing my ping pong, practicing my serves, and I put like a board up so it would bounce back to me, right? And practice. And then we had an uncle who was married to my dad's sister, and they came from California to visit, and he played ping pong. And this guy was good, okay? He played up close to the table and just amazing backhand. And he would just be slamming it backhand. And that's something I'd never seen before, because I watched the other boys play. Everybody was real forehand oriented. There wasn't anybody that was really good at backhand. And I had never seen a backhand slam, ever. So I was like, you got to teach me how do you do that? Show me how you do that, And so he spent a little time with me and showed me how to do that, how to play backhand. And I practiced. And then finally, I was, got a chance to play school, and just smoked everybody. Just beating them left and right. And all these guys that thought they were so good and all this. Once I was able to play, I would just smoke them. And I bought me saved up my money that I stole money from the sofas. Any change that I could find anywhere around the house, in the car. So I would go through the cars, because when I was cleaning them, right, I'd go through and I'd filter out all the coins or whatever that fell into the seat, any coins that were in the couch, any loose coins that anybody left around anywhere in that house. I snatched them up and I put them in a jar, right? And so I saved up enough money to buy me a nice butterfly ping pong paddle, right? So this was top end stuff. So I think I spent like almost $50 on this ping pong paddle back in the early 80s. So that was like, wow. That was like spending like $200 today on a ping pong paddle. But I had to have it, man. It was I just lusted after that ping pong paddle. It was a sports store, I think it was in Sarasota or whatever. So I'd go there and I straight to the ping pong paddles and just lust over that thing. Finally had enough money to buy it, right? And so I just smoked everybody. So really good at ping pong. And then in high school, like I said, I wasn't allowed to join any of the teams or try out or anything. Well, the first day in PE in Georgia, right? So I didn't have PE in North Carolina, so there was no sports or anything like that in North Carolina. But in Georgia, they signed me up for PE, and it was weightlifting, right? So my first day in weightlifting, and remember, I didn't know if I said this, but we shifted from North Carolina to Georgia in like halfway in the middle of the school year, right? So halfway through the school year, we moved to Georgia, and so I'm starting out in this weightlifting PE class. And so the first day they were doing this thing where they do push-ups and sit-ups, but you do 10 sets, but you start at 10 and go down, right? So you do 10 push-ups, 10 sit-ups, and then you do 9 push-ups, 9 sit-ups, 8 push-ups, all the way down to 1, right? So we go out there the first day. right? We go out there and I'm doing these things, and afterwards, and you know, I was able to do the whole thing, right? So you know, and the other guys I saw, they'd be giving up, before they got to the end, but I stuck it out and I got to the end. And it wore me out, but I was able to go all the way down to one, right? And so there was a student that was, I guess, a senior that was doing the class, right? And the after we got done, he comes over to me and he goes, "Who are you?" And I told him who I was, and he goes, "Where are you from?" And I was like, "From Florida." And he says, "Do you got play any sports?" And I was like, "No, not really. I don't, I'm not allowed to play any sports." And he's like, "Do you lift weights?" And I was like, "No." And he says, "You seem to be really in shape, so you don't play any sports?" And I'm like, "No." And he says, we could really use you on a football team, It's like, this is your first day. You didn't like, you don't have work out regularly or anything. I was like, "Well, no, I work, but I don't like work out." And he says, that's when you need to talk to the coach and get on the football team. I was like, "Well, I can't do that, but thanks." So he recognized that I was in tremendous shape. The first day, this isn't something that I've been doing. So they told me, he says, we started out the year at like 4, and we've been slowly working our way up to get to 10. And it's like, and most of these guys still can't do it. But you show up the first day having never done this before and go all the way through. He says that's pretty good. He said, you're in good shape. You should go out for sports. And I was like, "No, can't do it." And then other PE teacher, we were playing basketball, right? And it wasn't really, he didn't. Everybody was just, we didn't really play by the rules or anything. It was just fooling around. But again, he was a coach was over top of that. He's come up to me. He's like, "Hey," he says, "Do you why didn't you sign up for the team?" And he says, "You're really good." He says, "I see you got good form there." So he said, "Do you play basketball a lot?" And I said, "Well, we used to have a hoop around our house when I was a little kid. So ever since I was, a little kid in Indiana, I've been shooting baskets since I was maybe, 5 years old." And then at the private school we went to, they had a basketball hoop, and we'd go out there, for lunch or whatever, recess, and shoot hoops, play horse and stuff like that. I said, "But I never played basketball before, like, according to the rules or whatever." And he goes, "Well, don't worry about that." I said, "Yeah, you got good enough form, so we could teach you the rest, get you up speed pretty quick." And I said, "I'm pretty sure you'll be able to start you." And I was like, "Well, I can't play. My dad won't let me play." And he's like, "Well, here, just go. At least you can ask him." And I was like, "No." He says, "Well, maybe I can talk to him." I said, "No, no, no, no. You don't. Please don't do that. I'll get in trouble." So he's like, "All right, well, that's a missed opportunity. So I think you do well." He's like, "Well, sorry." And then we had a other PE class there where we were. I don't even know what it was. But we did all sorts of different things. But we had like a national health thing that they did, where they'd put you through these tests to see how good you were at different things, right? And so they would have this, how flexible you were, right? So you do all these exercises to see how flexible, if you could, touch your feet, or if you could palm the floor, or all these different things to check flexibility. And so I was able to do all that, and to actually I could sit on the floor and put my face on the floor between my legs, so maxed out on the flexibility. And then the most surprising one was like this. They do this thing where they would see how far you could jump from so you'd be not a running jump, but a standing jump. So you're standing there, and then you jump out as far as you can, right? And so they had this ruler on the ground, and I jumped past the ruler. They didn't make it long enough. So I jumped past the ruler, and they called the coach over and said, hey, this guy jumped past the thing. What do we do? Do you have a tape measure? And so he goes, what? No way. So I go over there and he says, do it again. Let's see what we can do. And I, again, jumped past the ruler or whatever. And he's like, holy crap. And he says, well, I don't have any ruler or anything. He said, but we'll just kind of measure it off and just, guesstimate it there. But, way better than everybody else. So, basically I've always been good at sports when I was younger, right? And then, we had for PE, we had softball, right? Well, remember during this time, this was in Georgia, with that crappy old house where I was splitting wood all the time. So I was swinging this Go Devil all day long. So we're playing softball. I can smack this thing over the home run fence in the baseball field, right? No problem. And so whenever I would get up to bat, everybody would run back to the fence, right? And I could kind of, with pretty good accuracy, put the ball pretty much wherever I wanted to put it, right? So if I could hit it over to the right or down in the center or over to the left, right? And I would shift my body to make it easier on myself. Well, the other team picked up on that. So they'd see me kind of shift and they'd say, everybody run that way. And I'd shift back and they'd run back, So the jig was up. So I had to, time my hitting in order to fool them, But they know I can hit, right? So we're out there playing. And, of course, everybody wants me on their team because that's guaranteed, however many times I get up to bat, that's that many home runs, right? So I'm the best one out there. And this isn't this is just regular Joes, right? So but anyway, one day the guys, the baseball team shows up, right? And there's like 5 guys from the baseball team. And they show up, and of course they're cocky. Hey, what's up, you slubs? Blah 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 blah. This is where we're gonna show you guys how this is done. And teach you guys some stuff, right? And so they had the pitcher, right, for the team. Our high school team. He goes up to the pitcher's mound, and he got a couple other guys. One at shortstop, another at second base, and then a guy at first base, right? So how many is that? 4 people. So 4 guys. I don't know. Maybe there was more, but I know that there was the guy at shortstop, second, and first, right? All on baseball team, and then the pitcher, right? So I come up to bat, and like always, everybody in the outfield goes all the way back to the fence, right? And so the pitcher's like, hey, where are you going? What are you doing? And he says, come in. He says he can't hit that far. And one of the guys like, yes, he can too. He can hit. And it's like, no, there's no freaking way. He said, that he can hit that, that far. Okay. He said, you won't have a chance of catching it that far back. So he said, come in. And he's like, they're shaking their heads like this. And he goes, trust me, come in. So, they did what he said. I know what we're doing, blah, blah, there's no way you can hit that far. So, everybody comes in, right? So, he throws a pitch in there, and I hit this, 30 feet over the fence, but to the left, so it was foul, right? And it lands, completely out of play. Over behind these, they had the metal shop was down the hill from the baseball field. So I hit it on top of the metal shop buildings. And he turns around and looks at me and he goes, who the F are you, right? And the guy in the outfield, the guys we played with, he goes, I told you. And so, of course, then everybody takes off, back to the fence, right? Well, they eventually get the ball back into play. And second pitch, and I send this thing. It's a one hopper, so it hit the ground, and bounced over the center field fence, right? And so he just throws down his glove, and we're in the middle of the game. Throws down his glove, and he walks up to him. And he goes, "Who are you?" I said, "Joe, whatever." And he goes, "Why aren't you playing? Why aren't you on the baseball team?" And he says, "Well, I can't play." He says, "What do you mean you can't play? What do you mean?" I said, "Well, my dad won't let me play." And he says, "You got to be kidding me." He says, "There's no way." He says, "We play baseball. I've never seen anybody hit that far." He said, "I don't know about what else you can do." I said, "But man," he said, "you can frickin' hit." And he goes, "How did you? How did you do that?" It's like, in other words, they're trying to figure out, if I'm not playing baseball, how am I able to hit the ball so far? It was confusing. It's like, well, I split a lot of wood and stuff, so I'm constantly swinging this thing, so maybe that's why, that I can hit it more than anybody else, because that's all I do all the time, right? So my swinging power and precision, because using the Go Devil, you have to swing it at exactly, a certain point in order for it to split the wood, right? So had good accuracy and incredible strength and speed in swinging. And the Go Devil's way heavier than a bat. So, really overdeveloped my swing, but couldn't play, right? And he's like, "God dang," he says, "Well, I'm going to talk to the coach and, see how him talk to you. This is ridiculous, And so it was the same coach that was doing the basketball, and he says, "So-and-so's telling me you can really hit." And I was like, "Well, yeah, but I can't play. I can't play on the team, And it's like, it says, "You should really, you seem to be really good at sports. I think you'd really do well. I mean, I don't know why your dad wouldn't want you to do, surely, he would want you to, play, because you do really well." And he's like, "It's not about that." It's my dad does not want me to play sports, and I'm telling you, if you call him and try to talk to him, he'll beat me. He's that kind of, he will not let me play. So please, don't call him, don't talk to him, whatever, right? So would have done real well, could have done real well, but wasn't allowed to play. Now, I did play a lot with my brother Jeff, and from a very early age, like a toddler, right? I was, playing with him, throwing, right? Getting him to throw. And from the time he was, 2 years old, I would have him throw with both hands, right? So we throw with his right hand because he's right-handed. And then I would tell him, throw with your other hand, and of course he couldn't throw very well. And so he didn't want to do that. And it's like he'd get mad. He said, no, I want to throw with my right hand. He said, no. I said, listen, it doesn't matter that you can't throw good. Okay, it's okay. I want you to throw with that hand so you'll get better, right? And then the more you throw with that hand, eventually you'll get good, and you'll be just as good with your left hand as you will your right hand. And it's like, and I told him, I said, look, I can't throw with my left hand. That's because nobody, when I was little, nobody played with me. So, but I'm going to help you, and so you're going to be able to throw with left or right. Okay? And sure enough, we practiced with him until he could throw better, faster, and more accurate with his left hand. He kind of overdeveloped his left. So he could throw better with his left hand than his right hand. And we did everything that way. So batting, I had him bat left, bat right. We play soccer, right? So I'd teach him to kick with his left foot as well as his right foot. So he was basically ambidextrous by the time he was 8 years old. He could throw just as good with his left as right, kick just as good with his left as right. And got him juggling, right? So develop hand-eye coordination. I taught him to juggle, even though I couldn't really juggle that well, right? But he was good at practicing. Jeff would put in the effort and he would practice. So, showed him how to juggle, and then he got, of course, took off and just practicing all the time until he got really good. So he had real good hand-eye coordination. Now, I couldn't play sports, and so that meant that Jeff could not play sports either, right? So all through grade school, and even into high school, middle school, everything, he was not allowed to play any sport at all, right? So he didn't get a chance. Like I at least got to play soccer for a while, but Jeff never got to play any sport until his senior year of high school. Okay, so Dad is effed off, right? So maybe it was junior year, but anyway, it was close, to the end of his high school, and so Dad, screwed off. He's gone. So Mom let him play baseball, right? And so he shows up to play baseball, and he is completely out of shape. He's a little chubby, and so they're making fun of him, for being fat and not being able to run very fast and all this kind of stuff. But then he comes up to bat and just starts cranking them, and they're like, what the hell? You've never played before? And he goes, well, I just play with my brother, but I haven't ever played baseball before. I've never had a regular pitch or anything like that. And they're like, oh my God, and then throwing, right? They find out that he can throw left-handed, right-handed. He's like, yeah, I can throw left-handed, right-hand. And he says, I can hit left or right hand too. And they're like, what? So you're a switch pitcher and a switch hitter? He goes, yeah, I can hit with either way, So the coach is just like godsmacked. He's like, well, what? How? Why weren't you playing sports? And it's like, well, our Dad didn't want to. And he's like, oh my God. So he ended up starting his first year of playing baseball ever. Okay. He's starting. And actually, they went to the finals in Florida, right? State level. And he ended up with a grand slam to win the game. And it's like, put Jeff in. And he's like, he sent Jeff out there, and he's like, swing for the fences, son. We need everybody to come in. And so he ends his high school, baseball deal with a grand slam at the state level, wins state. Now, this is, I say state, but this is like for private schools. It's not really for like high school type stuff. There's all these different divisions or whatever. But, still, if he would have had training, and this is what the coach told him. It says, you are the best baseball player that I've ever seen, that I've ever coached. He said, you're completely out of shape, so you're in a little better shape now. He said, but if I would have had you in middle school, he said, there's no doubt in my mind that you'd be playing in the majors. No doubt. He said, with your talent, your hand-eye coordination, your ability to switch hands, you would have been a phenomenon. You'd have easily made it to the majors. You'd be making, millions of dollars a year playing baseball right now. So, naturally talented. And me and him used to play ping pong all the time. I tried to develop, not only, skill, but the competitive, nature, right, of sports. So have a ping pong table. By now, I've bought my a ping pong table, so actual, real live ping pong table. And me and my brother, we are playing all the time on this ping pong table, right? When we're not, working, we're playing ping pong, right? Video games, be damned. We'll play those, at night, right? But we are out there playing ping pong, as much as we possibly can. And I would always beat him. He's like a little over 7 years younger than I was. And so I would just stomp him at ping pong, right? Over and over and over again. And he would get so mad. He says, you never let me win. He says, how's come you just let me one time win? He says, but you always, beat me. He says, you never let me win. He says, you're not being nice to me. He says, you're being mean. You just always beat me like that. I said, I'm not being mean. I said, this is the way the game is played. I'm not going to let you win. I said, if you're going to win, it's because you beat me. And I said, and one day you're going to be good enough that you're going to beat me. And it's not going to beat me because I let you win. It's going to because you're better than me. And so eventually that day came, right? So he was probably 16, 17 years old, right? And I would think I was about 23, years old. And so we're out there and we're playing ping pong. And usually he didn't even want to play a game. Let's just volley. I don't want to play a game. I don't want to get beat again, right? And so he knew he was getting better and better and better. And then finally, one day, he says, all right, he says, let's play a game. So we played a game, and he beat me. And the elation on his face, and he's just like, I beat you. I beat you. He says, I can't believe it. He says, I beat you. And I was just as happy as he was. I was about to ready to cry, It's like, he'd finally done it, And he was just jumping around screaming. It's like, oh my God. And it's like, I told you. I said, you beat me. He said, you really beat me. He said, I didn't let you win. He said, I know. He says, I know. I know I beat you for real, And I said, no, isn't that the greatest feeling in the world? And he's like, oh my God. He says, I just can't believe it. He says, this is the best day of my life. So really developed that competitive nature in Jeff, because it's the work and all the effort you put into it ends up paying off, and when it does, it's just mind-blowing. So really helps him out, and I think that's why he was had the extra edge in when he was playing baseball, because he was looking for that win that he had against me, and he was hungry for that feeling of overcoming, this big challenge that's set in front of you. So never really got to play that much as far as sports goes, but was really good in sports and was able to train my brother to be good in sports too, and had a lot of fun there. Wish things could have been different. I'm sure that I could have done well. I don't think I would probably ever get a scholarship. I'm too short, too small for football, and too short for basketball. Maybe I could have played baseball, but I really didn't like baseball, to be honest. I didn't really care about it. And soccer wasn't, during that time was a nothing. Nobody cared about soccer, right? It was all over Europe. Of course, it was number one, but nobody ever went to watch a soccer game, during that time in my life. So nobody even was interested in soccer till I was in my 40s, So either way, it wouldn't have really paid off if I would have invested a lot of time in it. My brother, though, he really liked playing baseball, and he, like I said, he could have been in the major leagues if he had given the opportunity to do so. He also played golf and was getting really good at that, to the point where he was thinking about hiring like a pro to help improve his game, because he was getting really, really good. Unfortunately, his life was cut short by those dang cigarettes. They finally caught up with him, got cancer, and died in his early 40s. So, tragic loss for the family. But dang, we did have some good times together, and most of that was involved around playing sports. So, if you do have an opportunity to get involved in sports, don't let that slip you by. High school only comes around once, around once, and it's a lot of good fun, a lot of good memories. So don't miss out.